out. Big games have come out recently.
Big games.
Big games for us. Maybe not so much for everyone else, but for us.
For us, yes. One especially we've been waiting. Well, actually, two that we've been waiting for a while. I just
True.
haven't gotten one yet.
Yes, I've got one. You are waiting on the other, I should say.
Hmm.
But yes, big games have come out. We're going to talk to you about them today.
Hmm.
Here on episode 147. 147 of the season of Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where I have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello. I'm Jared. Joined as always by Doc Al and Lady M.
Hello.
We've got some games to talk about today.
Hmm.
Big releases.
For us.
For us. Everyone else is going to be like, I don't think these are big releases.
I really think they're big releases.
We're going to be talking about the latest Kotaro Uchikoshi game,
Hmm.
The Somnium Files,
Hmm.
which just recently came out. And also, we are going to be discussing another game we have been waiting patiently on, which just got released. Which, like we said, you have not been able to play yet,
I'm still waiting patiently.
while I am the insane person who has. And that is Love Live School Idol Festival All-Stars. The hot follow-up to Love Live School Idol Festival.
Hmm. That's an RPG.
Yes. So we're gonna start with that.
Okay.
That's we're not gonna talk about it long just because it's the way it is. So School Idol Festival All-Stars came out in Japan last week
Hmm.
on the 26th of September. And yes, this is the big follow-up to School Idol Festival. It is a game they have been talking about for 2 years now because they unveiled it at TGS 2017. And basically got a lot of the information about the game out in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it
Which can
was
sometimes
weird.
be very strange when it comes to game releases. Like sometimes that's like very concerning. But I don't necessarily think it's that bad as you would think with this. A lot of people I think came into this game thinking like this is the sequel to School Idol Festival.
Hmm.
And that's kind of true and also kind of not true. Like this isn't necessarily like School Idol Festival 2, and if you're coming into this game thinking that, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because this is not like the next big rhythm game that they're making. Like it's still a rhythm game, but like it is not as intricate or as sophisticated as School Idol Festival is. Like you go from having 9 buttons to 2. But at the same time, there are more things you are managing at the same time. And it makes for a different kind of gameplay. So the big thing about School Idol Festival All-Stars is that it is taking Muse and Aqua, and they are combining the third group, the Nijigasaki High School Idol Club, which is basically, this is their game they are making their big grand introduction into. Like they've been shown off in School Idol Festival and like live appearances and stuff like that, but this is basically their big showcase.
Hmm.
Because this game is pretty much about them. Because the story is like very much like revolves around them in a way. So from stuff I've gathered in playing the story and just looking up on the internet, because obviously it's all in Japanese because it's only released in Japan so far. There is a global release coming sometime in the future, but there is no set date or anything yet. But the story basically starts off with you and the leader of the Nijigasaki girls. Her name is Ayumu. And you both go to Nijigasaki. You are childhood friends with her, and you are at the UTX building, and you're watching a joint performance with Muse and Aqua. So automatically there's like a weird discrepancy from like the main anime story, like because this basically takes place as if Muse,
Had not
Aqua,
just been.
and the Nijigasaki girls all were going to school at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. And also, like, it's in the midst of, like, them all going to school. So, like, none of the groups have disbanded or anything yet. So, yeah, you watch that, and you become inspired to find and, like get really into school idols and all that sort of stuff. So that leads to the formation of the Nijigasaki School Idol Club. And then basically your character kind of goes off and does random things. Like once the Nijigasaki girls are formed up, you go off to Numazu and you hang out with Aqua.
Yeah, okay.
And you're just by yourself hanging out with Aqua, and you're staying at Chica's place.
I'm into it.
Which, because of course she has a hotel, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
so you help them out as they are like trying to set up for this summer festival performance, and like help them get through like all the things they have to do for it and everything. And then once you get that done, you head over to Tokyo and to Otonokazaki, and you meet up with Muse, and you introduce the Nijigasaki girls to Muse. And that leads them to having like a school idol competition between both groups. Where it's like these individual competitions that like they'll have one girl from each and they'll be doing something. That's like the big Muse story. And then like the final story, which is where I'm at now. I haven't completely beaten it yet, but like I'm getting there essentially. The final story I think is supposed to be like them, like you're making like a school idol festival, because it's the name of the game. And you're going to have like all three groups perform at it. Because like the last song you unlock in the game is the theme song for All Stars, which is the Nijigasaki first group song.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. But yeah, like the story is interesting. I'm sure like once I'll be able to understand it, it'll be a lot better and all that. Another big thing that like they've changed from School Idol Festival to All Stars is that like the cards in the system of cards is different. So like before you get like, you know, rarities of cards, and you would level those up, you would combine them to make them better, and that's how you would form your teams and all that sort of stuff. With this, you still do polls for cards and all that sort of stuff, but you're not, if you get dupes, that doesn't mean you idolize those dupes together. If you get like a dupe, it basically just unlocks a next portion of that card's skill tree, which is a weird thing that these cards have skill trees.
Yeah.
And that's how you basically level, like you level them up individually, like just by themselves, like they have a level number and all that sort of stuff, but they also have a skill tree like level you're going through. So you're going through all that, and all those require certain items to get through, and that's how you'll unlock like that card's story. That's how you unlock the idolization of that card, and that's how you unlock like outfits that you get to use in the live shows, because all the live shows are now 3D, so you actually get to see them dancing and all that sort of stuff. So that is a different change to this. Also, you don't bond with those cards. You bond with a character by itself. So like you'll have those cards in your team, and once you play songs, like all those characters that are in your team will get bond points. So it's basically more like a global bond compared to like each card has individual bond points. And by leveling up that bond, you'll get more story and all that sort of stuff, similar to how it is in, you know, regular School Idol Festival. But this is more as like you are doing it on a per idol basis instead of a per card basis.
So how would you get stuff to make pulls then?
Usually you gain stars in this compared to love gems. And you get stars from doing just like a lot of things, like doing daily, weekly missions, overall missions in general, playing songs. Like the first time you clear a song, if you beat it, you get a B score rank, or if you get an S score rank, those are all stars you get. Clearing chapters in the story mode will get you stars. So basically all that kind of sort of stuff. Okay. It is, you know, it's pretty similar to what you'd expect. Just like there's a little bit more, I guess, to it than just what School Idol Festival kind of brings to the table by itself. It is a more difficult game than School Idol Festival, in the sense that if you start up School Idol Festival now and like, so like when I got a Japanese account for School Idol Festival, so I was able to start that game up and basically play expert songs immediately because I know how to play that game. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with All Stars, because it's not necessarily like the songs have difficulties, but they are not based on your skill. They are based on your card skill. So you have to basically level up all of your cards to make them stronger, and that allows you to play these harder songs, because the way the live system works is that every note you hit is damage you're taking, and you have a stamina bar that is constantly going down no matter what you do. There are also notes that will sometimes be like, you will take more damage from this note. Or like they'll have like opposite effects where like, you'll get more SP for this note you're hitting. You will gain health for this note you're taking. You will get a shield for your stamina bar for this note you're hitting. So there's like little intricacies in the gameplay for that. But basically, this kind of just like gates your progression in a way that you have to focus on building up the right team, building up your cards in certain ways that you're able to progress through the game essentially. And that is basically kind of like one of the reasons why they are calling this like a RPG in a sense, because it is it's based around a lot of just like, leveling up your cards, making them stronger, making it so they can get through these songs without taking too much damage and all that sort of stuff. And it's one of those things that's very weird at first when you're playing through it, but like once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. It's like, it's a thing that, obviously gates your progression. So like, one of the songs in the story mode I am stuck on because I don't have enough. I can't get through some of like the little submissions in the songs with enough points to get through it. But I know that like all I have to do is go grind out some items, level up my cards, and then I would be able to get through it. So like it's not as like terrifying or just like weird as it initially seems. Like eventually you just get used to it. The one weird thing though is that like a lot of the cards I have now are like SRs in my team that need to level up, and they are all stuck on like the story beat where like I need to have this many items to unlock the first little story beat of their card, but every single story node requires the same item, and it's a specific item that is very hard to come by, so it makes like grinding out those very difficult. And especially because I need that specific item to do other things with other cards as well. So it just becomes kind of like this weird thing where like I'm just like at a roadblock, and it's just because of this one specific item that I need. So that is a little frustrating in a way. But I think overall, like, you have to kind of come to this game with the knowledge that like this isn't School Idol Festival. This is something different. And if you're looking for like a new story from the Love Live franchise, like this is totally it. This is what you would want. And like if you're looking for like the hardcore rhythm portion of School Idol Festival, like School Idol Festival is still there. Like that is still available. The game is still out there. It's still going to keep going.
Still great.
Yeah, totally. And like the rhythm game portion of this game isn't bad. It is totally fine. It's just not the same as School Idol Festival OG, but like for what it is totally fine and comparable. Like, it's not bad. And, like, once you get up to higher difficulties, it actually gets a little tricky here and there. So, it's not like you're just, like, cakewalking through all these songs. So there's that. Yeah, that's the brief little bit of All-Stars that I've played. Not brief little bit, I've played a lot of it. But, the briefness that I can kind of convey through language barriers and all that sort of stuff. So, you have anything you want to ask about it, or was that comparable?
I mean, I'll know more when I get my hands on it, but
totally. But like, if there are any questions, this would be a good time to ask.
Yeah, I did tell you the one thing that bugged me at first is that like your teams originally had people like from all the different groups and like out of order and all that, and I was like, I don't like this. It's
one of the things you just get used to. Because by the time like you're in like the higher difficulties in the story, you do not pay attention to that in the slightest.
Yeah, it's just weird to me, like seeing Ruby do other people's parts.
Mm-hmm. Which I will say, like they do production value in this game really well. Like if you make like the right teams and like have them play out their specific songs, like they basically mimic like they mimic like the two Sunshine openings really well.
Strawberry Trapper was amazing.
The first Aqua singles really done well, and then like the subunit songs are also done like just like what they would do for like their live performances. So like that stuff is really great. But again, it's one of those things like you just get, it looks weird at first because like all these teams your team is like mixed up of like all three groups, and it seems like a mess at first. But yeah,
I got nothing.
All right.
I'm excited to play it eventually.
Yeah, hopefully it comes out in for the worldwide version before the end of the year.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be cool. There's a lot of text in this game, so I would kind of bet it probably doesn't drop until 2020.
Yeah, that's my guess.
So, but like it's gonna be cool. I have enjoyed my time with it so far. So
Do you get anything carried over from School Idol Festival?
yes, I don't know how much this will change for the global version, but in the Japanese version, you basically use your SIF ID
Mm-hmm.
and you use it to log into this game, and then you link it both in School Idol Festival and in All Stars. And depending on what you do in both games, you will get rewards for either game. So, one of the things they were showing in All Stars is like if you're depending on what your rank or what level your account is in School Idol Festival, you will get this specific item. So like if you were like the ranks in the Japanese version were very extreme. So like you could have like an item for like rank 400.
Oof.
And I think that was like you get a guaranteed UR ticket. And then there was a bunch of other stuff like just I think like having certain amount of cards for girls and all that sort of stuff. And then like stuff you do in All Stars will carry over into School Idol Festival. So like, logging in for a certain amount of days, leveling up and having specific amount of cards for certain girls will get you this sort of thing. So like there's a specific missions you get to do and they interact with each other. So it is very much like it's not the same as like kind of what they initially build this as is like, oh, you get All Stars, it's going to come bundled with School Idol Festival. Like that's not the case, obviously. But it does do enough to where like this has like a similar ecosystem to where like if you play both games, you're going to get benefits but also in both games.
Okay, that was what I was worried about, is that it wouldn't.
No, it totally does, and it's really good. The only other downside I would say is that it's a huge game.
Oh no.
In terms of space.
Oh no.
Like it's very big.
Well, that might encourage me to get my new phone then.
Yeah, that would probably be a good reason to do so. I did not download everything in the game. Did not do like the light download or the full download, so somehow I skipped all that. So I'm just downloading stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find on my phone where's storage. And I'll tell you how much space this game is using on my phone.
Oh no.
The iPhone is calculating that.
Oh no.
So this is a little bit smaller than what I was anticipating, but it is taking 2.18 gigs on my phone, which is compared to 1.7 gigs that global School Idol Festival is taking, and the 3.78 gigs the Japanese version is taking. So again, it is a hefty game, and that's without downloading everything. So
Yikes.
it is something. So yeah, it's fun. Song list isn't great because it's like 8 songs per group, which isn't a lot. But obviously they're gonna add stuff throughout the course of this game, so that is what it is. And then like there are B-side songs, essentially like the equivalent of that, and those are like for Aqua, they are the solo songs from season 2, and then some other songs for Muse. You can play those, but they don't have 3D. They are strictly 2D versions of those songs. So you don't get fancy dances or anything like that, or animation at all, which is a bit of a bummer, but at least those songs are in there at least.
It's better than nothing, but
yeah,
still not great.
Yeah. But that's All Stars in a nutshell.
Cool.
There you go. So also we discussed, or we played through a game called The Somnium Files.
Mm-hmm.
The latest game from Kotaro Uchikoshi, the developer of the Zero Escape series.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was a game we have been looking forward to for a while. Like we watched that, I think, that press conference where he announced the game, and we were like, "Oh, right, this looks interesting. I would be into this." And basically, I've been kind of keeping up with the development of the game since then, and it is finally out there.
We finally played it.
Mm-hmm. You had to wait a little bit to play it.
I did.
because of manufacturing delays and increased demand. Delayed the physical release a week after the initial release date, which is a bit of a bummer. But you finally got it and played through it,
Pretty
and here
quickly.
you are. Yeah, it's not a very long game per se. Like compared to some of the Zero Escape games, like it's shorter than those.
Yeah, but I think it does a really good job of like it gets in and it gets out and tells the story it needs to tell. It doesn't like overstay its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
Like I mentioned this in my review of it, like it feels like one of Uchikoshi's more tighter games he's done. Like you compare this to something like Virtue's Last Reward, like
Mm-hmm.
it is night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Just how much like just there's less stuff to do obviously, but like it makes for a tighter flow to the story and more just better writing all around because you're not like repeating things all the time. You're not going through the same little bits and pieces here and there all the time. So, um, I think it just makes for a better story in general.
I I've been thinking about it since the other day because I beat it and you sent me a message
Mm-hmm.
and asked me like how it compares, and I've been thinking about that a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know that I have like the definitive answer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I still think that like the characters and relationship between like Junpei and Akane are really, really well done. Um, but I might like this better than the Zero Escape series.
Which that's saying something.
That's saying something because I really like that series and I'm like
Mm-hmm.
hardcore defender of it.
And you really like 999.
I really love 999. Like
Um.
it is like way up there in top
Mm-hmm.
list of games.
Which I haven't necessarily played since I played through the phone version of that, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a good remembering of like all the intricate details of 999.
Mm-hmm.
Which unfortunately the phone version is unplayable now because it has been phased out by iOS updates,
Oh god.
which is a shame. But so yeah, like I remember that game. Obviously, it was definitely a tighter game than what Virtue's Last Reward and Zero Time to Learn would become.
Mm-hmm.
But like just like some of like the smaller like in between bits, I don't remember very specifically. But um, yeah, coming from you, hearing that you think this might be better than 999 and just the Zero Escape series as a whole is high praise.
It is really, really high praise. And I mean, I've been really, really thinking about this a lot because I'm like, am I sticking with how much I love 999 because of like my feelings on it and that I have that nostalgia with it? Or do I genuinely think it's a better game than this?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've been kind of like knocking it in my head a bit, trying to think like, okay, well, like what's the positives, what's the negatives, and like what does this do better? What does that do better? And I will definitely say 10,000%. I like Junpei better as a main character.
Mm-hmm.
That is not to say that I dislike Date. He has moments of I want to slap him upside his head.
He is very much big energy.
He is big dumb real real intense. Um but that being said, I thought a lot more of the like emotional scenes were done a little bit better in this one. Which again, saying a lot because spoiler alert, the whole scene with like Snake and Clover is pretty amazing, and like Akane and Junpei have some really great moments. Um, but this one like had me in tears at one point,
Mm-hmm.
like literal owl tears, and that does not happen very much. Um, it was very beautifully written, and I was kind of shocked about how beautifully written it was. Um, but overall, I just one of the things that you and I discussed was the fact that like Date and Aiba, his eye,
Mhm.
his AII, um, we come in after they've been together for like 5 years as a
Mhm.
team, and you you feel that relationship between the two as viewers are intruding on that. Like it doesn't feel awkward for us to be like in the middle of this like ongoing relationship, but you can tell that there is an ongoing relationship there, that like they trust each other, they've been together, they know who each other are. Like it feels very natural, which I do think is a really great progression for Uchikoshi, honestly. Like he doesn't always nail that, or he has
Right.
not in the past. And this was pretty nailed on that one. Like
Mhm.
it was really well done. Um just overall, like you said, a tighter game. Um there was a lot less backtracking in general,
Mhm.
which I appreciated a lot.
You're not going through a bunch of sequences that you're repeating the same thing over and over again, like, or
Mm-hmm.
like getting the same dialogue over and over again. Like, you are basically going through things, and it is new experiences most of the time.
Yeah, and so I really appreciated that. That was great. Um I'm trying to think of what else I was thinking when I was rolling this around in the owl noggin.
I will say like the art style and the graphical cinematic detail to this game is very much like the successor to Zero Time Dilemma, where you can see how Zero Time Dilemma was like Uchikoshi kind of getting his bearing for like making a game that's full of just cutscenes all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the culmination of that work. And
I could
also,
see that.
you can tell like just the difference in budget between those two games, with how like Zero Time Dilemma is kind of janky in places, and it's like it feels rough with like the way all those the cinematics work and everything. Here it is way more polished.
Yeah, it's a lot more polished.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even in certain scenes, it's really nice to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unrelated, but also something that I find interesting is I really appreciate at this point when I get to play like as adults. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that Junpei and Akane were like 21, 22, something like that. So they're technically adults. But like Date is 30. So he's closer to me in age. Um, so I kind of I'm appreciative of games that are like, oh hey, let's put some like older people in here that are not like, I'm not saying that 30 is old because I'm 31, but
But instead, it's like teenagers.
yeah, I mean like when you're 21, 22, you're still pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have a lot of growing up to do. And that's not to say that Date doesn't have a lot of growing up to do. He definitely does. But he's more like solid and like this is who he is. Um, I don't know. I've just appreciated that there have been a few more games lately that I get to play as like people who are closer to me in age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, I was gonna say that we were talking about like him writing relationships better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Date and Mizuki's relationship,
It's very good.
it is very great. It was super well done. So that's like two right out the gate that he has the main character having great relationships with, and
Mm-hmm.
neither of them are creepy.
Mm-hmm. Like the way he writes Mizuki is just like she's obviously she's like 11 or 12,
She's 12.
and all of her like the way she speaks, her mannerisms, the way she interacts with Date, like it all feels like that is a character that is that age, like legitimately is that age.
Yeah.
Because she is moody, she is rebellious, she has conflicted feelings about Date because of the way their relationship is in general.
And her family as well.
And her family. So like all of those things are very realistic in the way like she discusses them, she talks about them, or like her internal thoughts about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very realistic in the way for like that age of a character, I would say, as well, which is something that I think a lot of games can, or a lot of just media in general can kind of fail at when it comes to like writing characters that young.
And also like he writes her in that sense that she feels very realistic, but also like she is spunky and does not take any shit off of anybody, and also is probably the person that I would be most scared of in this game.
It's true.
Well, relatively. One of. But that's also a really amazing relationship and very, very well written.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, I really like Date's hair. He's like weird man bun.
It's good hair.
It is good hair.
Let's talk a little bit about development before we dive into story spoilers.
Okay.
Which there will be a lot of.
Actually, before we do development, are you surprised that I came out the gate today saying that I like it better?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I anticipated 999 to still be the top. Like, even though I knew you liked this game a lot, I would have figured you would still say, like, I like this game a lot, and I like a lot of the stuff it does and everything, and, like, all the things that Uchikoshi has improved upon and all that, but I think 999 is still my favorite.
I still have... I'm going to make a weird comparison. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Okay. So while I was thinking about this, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with myself about another thing that I was like, oh man, I'm conflicted on this because I've had a favorite for so long that like I don't know what to do about this, that I might have a different favorite. And that comparison is Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair.
Because
that makes sense.
Link to the Past was absolutely my favorite for decades, literally decades. And I just felt like it was like one of the most perfect games ever. And then when Breath of the Wild came out, I was like, oh, but this is amazing. And it does a lot of like really great new things. And so I remember on our podcast, I had a real bad conflict of like, which one is actually my favorite? What do I pick? And I had a lot of the same kind of struggle with this of like, which one do I go with? And then like when you step back from it for a bit and look at them side by side and say like, okay, but what does this do? And what does this do? Like, honestly, looking at it that way, putting aside like
biases and all that sort of stuff, nostalgia,
this one is a better game. I also thought that the puzzle mechanics were really, really clever.
Yeah.
And I liked this type of puzzles more than I did the ones in 999.
I would agree with you, but also I'm bad at puzzles, so.
Well, I mean, those were just, I don't know, the puzzles weren't, they're good, but they weren't the kind of puzzles that I was like, okay, yeah, this is really awesome. Like, I really like this. And then there were some in this that I was like, okay, yeah, that was cool. Or that was well done. But I never felt like really frustrated. There was one that made me a little grumpy, but like I got through it. But I liked the puzzles in this one, and I also felt like the puzzles were more like plot relevant.
Yeah.
Than like, hey, solve this weird math thing. It's like, okay, sure, why?
Do some Sudoku.
Yeah. I mean, that was technically story related. But then like in the new version, they took the Sudoku out. So I really enjoyed the puzzles better on this. So I just felt like this was a like cleaner, tighter, better written, like overall it was a better game. Again, I still really like Junpei and Akane, and I think Junpei is better in terms of personality. That being said, I like that Date is written with so many flaws.
Yeah.
Because it makes him feel more human. Which is interesting since we're talking a lot about like AI and this.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, development, go ahead.
Let's talk about development.
Development.
Like we mentioned, this game was written and directed by Kotaro Uchikoshi, produced by Yasuhiro Iizuka, designed by Akira Okada, and includes character designs by Yusuke Kozaki and music by Keisuke Ito. Yusuke Kozaki has also done character work on No More Heroes, Fire Emblem Awakening, Tekken 7, Pokemon Go, Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Heroes, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So a bunch of stuff.
It's really great. The character designs are really well done.
Kozaki was approached by Uchikoshi for his role as character designer due to being an internationally known artist and how Uchikoshi wanted the art to have a worldwide appeal. The game was developed with a higher budget than that of Uchikoshi's previous work, the Zero Escape series, which, according to Uchikoshi, helped allow him to express his concept for a game in a way that he was unable to with Zero Escape.
I think that shows.
Yes, very much so. Comparing the Somnium Files with Zero Escape, Uchikoshi described the Somnium Files as being made with more adventure game fans in mind, in contrast to Zero Escape's heavy use of cutscenes.
Or, I don't know that would be cutscenes. It's more visual novel, but...
Yeah. This is very much a less visual novel.
Yeah.
Two of the game's core themes are eyes and different types of expressions of love, reflected in how the title I is pronounced I, as in EYE, and how AI, is the Japanese word for love. The title also has additional meanings in that it is pronounced like the English word I, as in the letter I, and is short for artificial intelligence, and the somnium in the subtitle is taken from the Latin word for dream. The idea of entering characters' dreams to solve cases was proposed by Iizuka. Uchikoshi thought it was intriguing, so he decided to use it in the game. The game's investigation-based puzzles are intentionally designed to be less difficult than those in the Zero Escape series, very much so.
Yeah.
And are described by Uchikoshi as a modern take on the style of Hideo Kojima's 1994 adventure game Policenauts, which is something we talked about, I think, before you had even played the game.
Mm-hmm.
I very much got Policenauts vibes from this game when I was playing it.
Yeah.
Which was not something I was expecting, and then once I read this, I was like, that totally makes so much sense. Other influences on the game included Eve, a 1995 game, and The Silver Case, the Suda51 adventure game from 1999. Okada additionally mentioned Life is Strange, Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, and The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, as influencing his work on the game. All very kind of different games in their own rights. Well, like I think the stuff from Okada is very much like narrative American adventure games as they are now, while the Uchikoshi stuff is a little bit more old school, not really old school, but like 90s Japanese adventure games. So like it's this weird mix mash of the new style of adventure game with older Japanese adventure game.
But it works.
It totally works. Like it's a great combination.
Are we going to talk about like the YouTube and Twitter accounts?
We totally can, yeah.
I think it's important to at least mention them.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know how you would describe it. I guess it's like a marketing tool, a faux ARG. So they set up a YouTube and Twitter account for one of the characters in the game, a real life YouTube and Twitter account, for the character of Iris, who plays the idol Aset. And they set all this up in the beginning of this year.
Oda also has a Twitter, by the way.
Yes. And she was used to like promote the game. They released her single. Isn't a great song, but they basically used her as like a way to market the game and show like some of the different like just how the story was going to be without basically without spoiling the game. So like there was videos that like she put out of like, you know, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a idol, I'm doing these vlogs and everything. There are vlogs where she talks about like this secret society that happens that's trying to take over her videos and all that sort of stuff, which leads to something that happens in the game. and all that sort of stuff. So it was a weird and interesting like way to kind of try and market the game in a way that like I don't like a lot of other games aren't really trying to do.
I mean,
Like,
like one of the things that it did was like at one point have her just disappear.
mm-hmm,
And then the other one was really brutal and was very confusing with the polar bear video.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then the way that they set it up is that like the Iris and Oda Twitters interacted a lot.
mm-hmm.
And when that polar bear video was posted, like they actively had Oda looking for her.
Which I think this was like going down the weekend of GDC because she was like, "Oh, I'm going to
Yes.
GDC. Uchikochi's gonna be there," and then like she posted like weird videos of like as she was there, and people were like, "No, she wasn't there."
Mm-hmm.
So like it all started like taking this very weird turn. Then like the polar bear video happened, and then like she comes back like nothing happened.
Yep.
It's very strange.
Also, the fact that Uchikoshi wrote himself into the canon of it is hilarious to me.
Of course.
Um, so apparently, the way that it works in the canon is that the person who signed Iris as the idol had a conversation with Uchikoshi in a bar, and he was the one that recommended that the guy sign Iris. So that is hilarious to me. And like it is canon that he is in the universe and that they know him. It's like that's a ballsy move, man. But also it's very Uchikoshi. Like he would.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also, this game has like there is a billboard for 999.
Yes, there is.
So
And lots of sound effects from Zero Escape.
there, yeah, very familiar sounds you will hear throughout this game. So I guess let's dive into spoilers.
Spoiler time.
So if you have not played this game or want to, this is the time to bail out.
We will say
while
that
you
it's
still
good,
have
though.
the chance. It's a very good. You should definitely pick it up.
Especially if you like those games.
Yeah, if you like Uchikoshi games, like this is a no-brainer.
It's so good. Even if you're like remotely interested in it, pick it up. It's good. It's worth trying.
Definitely. All right.
So we start with a
murder.
a carousel.
And
it's raining.
So you are sent out to an abandoned amusement park in the quarantine district of Kabasaki, which they'll learn about why that's abandoned there later on. You are Date. You are a special investigator, and you are sent out to figure out this murder that's taken place here. There is a corpse that is tied to the carousel. Her left eye is missing. Her name is Shoko Nadami. You know her.
Surprisingly, not a lot of blood around. But yes,
and
we know her.
When you're searching through the area, you find Shoko's daughter Mizuki. She is in the central column of the carousel, and she is clutching an ice pick.
Yes, which was the murder weapon.
Which is the murder weapon, and also she is not able to speak.
Yes.
So bad things. Already. So you have to go out and investigate like what happened, like why is she dead? Who has she been in contact with?
Why is she dead?
Why is she dead? Who has she been in contact with? So you go out and investigate, like, you talk to the police that are on the scene there. You go to your friend Renju's company, who is Shoko's ex-husband. He runs Lemniscate. That's the organization that is employing ASET or Iris.
It's a entertainment industry.
Yes.
Which has the poster from VLR.
The scratch off poster.
Yep. Anyway, go ahead.
You meet Ota there as well. You talk to him, where like you learn that he is like making fake accounts to argue with himself to try and make Iris better.
Yep.
It's so weird. Like I was not expecting to hear sock puppet accounts and straw man arguments in an Uchikoshi game, but here we are. Just right out of the gate. It's like, okay. So you go out and investigate all them. You talk to Iris and all of that. And by the end of the day, you have to sync with Mizuki to try and figure out what happened and try and help her speak again. So Syncing is the big puzzle mechanic in this game because Date is a member of Abyss, which is the Advanced Brain Investigation Squad of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. They are very, like, top secret, like, nobody really knows about this type of thing. He is a syncer, and a syncer is someone who basically dives into a person's memories and tries to figure out what they can discern from those memories. The catch is that you're able to do this, but you have a time limit of 6 minutes. And if you go over the 6 minutes, you are done. You're done in game, and bad things will happen to you in the canon as well. So this is where the puzzle aspects of the game are. So essentially, once you are inside someone's head, you become Aiba. You become like a humanized version of her, who, like we mentioned, she is an AI inside of a fake eyeball in your head.
She's your left eyeball.
Yes. So you become her when you're doing these investigation puzzle sequences. So anytime you move, time moves. If you stop, time moves at a very slow pace. Anytime you do anything, like you look at something, you pick something up, you investigate something, that takes time. Usually, though, you'll be able to gain some sort of item that will be like, oh, well, if you use you do this thing, but I'll put this item on here that makes the time go is a seventh of the time that it originally stated. So like
they're called timies.
Yes. So like you do something, you pick up an item that's half time. So like you go to something else and it's like, I want to investigate this, but it's going to take 20 seconds. If I use this item, now it's going to be 10 seconds long. So that's how all that works. So it's a race against the clock, and also it's about how you manage your time, figure out the right sequence of steps to figure out these puzzles, and then break all these mental locks that are in the way of you learning the truth of what is inside this person's memories.
Sometimes there are like branches you can take.
Yes, so like there will be branches within the specific memory that you're in. Those correspond to branches in the flowchart. Which obviously, like any Ushikoshi game, there is a flowchart.
It's gonna have flowchart.
This one isn't as like ridiculous as say like the Zero Escape games become. Like it's very kind of like
it's not a VLR one.
No, it's very very tiny compared to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's not a whole lot of like branches in general in the game. So like anytime there's a branch, it involves you doing a puzzle. That's the only time you really see a branch in the story. So yeah, the puzzles, like we said, like we mentioned in the development part, much easier than Zero Escape puzzles because, like, obviously you're not doing a ton of them to get through a certain stage, and you know you have that 6 minute time limit, so they're going to go by fairly quickly. That doesn't mean like they're just easy as all can be. Like there's still like there's the time crunch element to it. Like it puts you like in a different kind of stress than you would within like the Zero Escape puzzles. So where like you're like, oh god, I need to do this, I gotta figure out what's going on, I don't have much time left, because every time like a minute goes by or certain amounts of time goes by, you will hear in your headpiece pewter or boss will be like, Date, you have 4 minutes left, you have 3 minutes left, you have 2 minutes left, you have 1 minute left, you need to hurry up.
Yeah.
So it's constantly you just like fighting against time and all that sort of stuff.
But again, it felt more plot relevant to me, so it was useful in my mind.
Yeah, and I think like just the way that they integrate those puzzles and make them just like, it's not. They're still like you will figure out like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this in this order. Like it's not necessarily like I need to go grab a notepad and write all this down and then eventually figure out how to do this puzzle. Like you're not doing any of that kind of thing.
No.
So yeah. So you go through this first puzzle, which is a recreation of the theme park, and depending on what you do, you will go down 2 different paths, and they both involve the cage of some sort. If you go down one path, you will heal Mizuki's not being able to speak immediately. If not, you will go down a different path where she will still not be able to speak, but she will eventually kind of get it back. And of course, like they call these dreams they are your insomnium. Yeah. Which obviously is kind of where the name of the game comes from and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. This is the first big branch of the game, and it takes you into 2 completely different paths.
Yep.
All the other branches will like keep you segmented into the left or the right path, while this is where you start in the center and then you branch to the left or right.
I went on the left, which was really brutal.
Hmm.
It was a very brutal route.
So I also went to the left first.
It seemed like the better option to me when I was looking at the items,
Hmm.
like that were under the cage. I was like, oh, I think this one would be better. And so I went with that one because the choices are like a deflated balloon or a torn up picture.
Right.
And I was like, oh, it'd be the torn up picture. That makes more sense. So I go to the left, and then it's like, oh God, everything's bad.
Mhm. So we'll go down that path first. You will probably have to fill in some more gaps than I will because you've played it more recently than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so that path takes you down the path where Mizuki is immediately cured of her aphonia, is what they call it. She's not able to produce sound.
Mm-hmm.
So she's able to speak and all that sort of stuff. And she wants to go help you figure out who killed her mother.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that leads you down the path of trying to find where's Renju. Where has he been? Because the police brought him into questioning, and then he was released, but he is kind of just went AWOL, just disappeared.
Yep.
No one knows what he's doing. So you eventually go and try and figure out where he's been. You go to a few different spots where he usually is, and eventually you find you go to this like maid cafe that he owns.
Sunfish
and
pocket.
You find that he's been hung up and strung up and has been brutally murdered. Also has his eye missing.
This one was intense for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first one was like, okay, like that's pretty intense, but it's not that bad. But like this one, he has like a giant hook in his mouth and like has this horrific look on his face. It was rough. And also they tell you at one point, which it's an interesting thing. Like, yeah, at death he evacuated his bowels, and like he's wearing a white suit. And we don't see any of that. I mean, I guess it would be kind of gross to like animate that, but it's kind of a weird thing to bring up and then just kind of like have this man in a pristine white suit.
Probably not something you could get away with modeling in a game.
Yeah, like just make him wear black pants. And then like you won't even know if he himself.
The other bad thing is that Mizuki is with you when you find him.
Yep. So now Mizuki has seen both of her parents dead.
Yep.
Great.
Bad stuff all around.
Yeah, so Mizuki's not having a good time.
No.
No.
She's having a very bad time.
Um it was very, very upsetting. So then they have to figure out like, okay, well now we have a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Who would want to take out both Renju and Shoko?
Uh-huh.
What do they have in common that could possibly bring them both into trouble?
Hey, let's go hang out with the mafia.
That leads them to the Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
So they figure out a branch of the Yakuza called the Kumakuras, and they find out that both Renju and Shoko had some sort of dealing with them. So Date kind of goes into this family branch office and investigates, sees what's up, talks to the leader of the Kumakuras at the time, and tries to figure out exactly what's happening. He gets a little bit of information out of him, but also he finds out that there's another person in this office, and it is So Seijima, who is a congressman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is a congressman doing in a Yakuza office?
Good question.
Good question.
Also, I will say that like interesting that these dudes are like the comic relief of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Date to an extent has some of that, but like
Mhm.
these dudes are legit just there for comic relief.
Mm-hmm. It's because like you literally just like you beat them up, and like they just go down without a fight, and then you have to fight them. Like you have to like dodge out of the way of like getting shot, which is like you're just like walking, and like this one of the goons is gonna try and shoot you from behind, and Iba's like, Date, a porn bag at your feet. He's like, what?
She says several times throughout the game that his reaction speed goes up 3.6%, I think, anytime he knows that there's like a porno mag around.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever she actually wants him to do something and do it quickly, she's like, Date, there's a porn mag over there. And he's like, whoop. And he does the thing.
It's really goofy.
Which, like, can we talk about the fact that this is a 30-year-old man who's really into porno mags? Like, does anybody still do that? Is that a bigger thing in Japan? Like,
Play the Yakuza games.
the internet exists.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Japan had like porno mags and vending machines. If the Yakuza games are to be believed.
Like, they still have that?
I don't know if this. I don't remember which game this was.
I mean, this game had porno mags and a vending machine.
So I guess that's a thing.
I mean, if 2 games have it and they're not by the same developer, then it has to have some kind of grounding in truth, right?
Mm-hmm. You'd think.
But also the fact that they're like, just to me, that's very odd. Like, this is a 30-year-old man who is using porno mags. Like,
I mean, we learned from Mizuki he hasn't had a relationship in 4 years, so
his girlfriend is a ninja.
he's got to get his rocks off somehow.
His girlfriend is a ninja.
Sorry, forgot. You can't see her.
You can't see her.
Believe it.
An actual argument that they have.
An actual argument. It's really good.
She says at one point, like, Date, this is why no one thinks you're attractive. And he's like, I'm attractive. She's like, no, this is why you've been single for 4 years. No, I have a girlfriend. She's just a ninja. It's like, you guys. We also learn a little bit on this route that, like, the reason that Mizuki is with Date is that basically, like, we don't learn the whole story here, but we learn some of it. That there was an issue with her parents that Date realized, like, okay, yeah, you guys are both terrible parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take this kid. And Renju is like, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. You should do that. And so Mizuki's just been living with Date for how many years now?
At least it's been a few.
Yeah. So he's taking care of her, but he's not her legal guardian.
Right.
That's still on Renju.
Mm-hmm.
But she stays with him, he feeds her, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think this eventually, like, this path leads you towards Ota and Iris. I don't remember if anything happens in between.
The routes that you get on this one, the top left, which is you get a lock.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Mizuki one, and then you have the Ota one.
Right. But, like, you go towards them, like, next in your investigation.
Oh, right. Yes.
So, like, you bring Iris into questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was, like, one of the last people to see Renju, because Ota sees her and Renju get into a car.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, that's weird. And then basically Date has to question her, like, were you the person who did all this? Were you the one who murdered him? All that sort of stuff. And then you sync with her.
Yep.
Her dream you go into is very bizarre.
Yeah. So there was a Cyclops killer, a serial killer, a while back, a few
6 years ago.
Yeah, right. 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep hinting at what happened, but like nobody will actually tell Date the details of it. But turns out that like is like watching everybody from that serial killer scene like get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Horribly. So you have 2 paths on this one. One is that you can like destroy the like crayon drawings.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is that you can just act out whatever like horrific things it wants you to do.
Right.
Like
one of those leads you to seeing at the end, like in a reflection, that the person who is doing the murders is someone that looks exactly like Date.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, wait a minute, did I do this? And they're like, no, you didn't do it. And he's like, oh,
because there's a thing in this game that they talk about that Date does not remember anything that happened 6 years ago. Before that, he remembers everything from 6 years ago onward.
Prior
made it way more confusing
than
I could have.
Yeah, prior to 6 years ago, he remembers none of that.
Yeah.
Like he's only 6 years and on is what he remembers.
And when like he tries to like when the boss brings up like the Cyclops killings, she will do it in very vague mentions and not really go into it. And then once he kind of sees this, he asks her like, well, am I the person who did it? He's like, no, it's impossible. You were not the person who did this. Like, there's no way it was you.
She was saying like, maybe she saw your face in there because you scared her
Mhm.
during the questioning.
Right.
And so she just put the most intimidating person in her mind at that moment into the dream.
Also, the game begins with a tutorial sync that is very relevant. And this is supposed to be Date's dream. He is in a house he is unfamiliar with. He eventually finds a woman who is bleeding on the ground he doesn't know, and sees someone who is like trying to kill her. But he has no recollection of what this is.
Yep.
So yeah. But so you go through Iris's dream and everything, and you're just like, I don't know, this is weird. I don't know what's happening. And you basically have to let her go because you don't really have anything on her. Other than that she knows about the Cyclops killings, but you don't really have anything to connect her to those. It's very strange. Also, there is a flashback at one point when you first meet Iris that Date has a memory of her when she is younger, but he does not understand why.
Right.
So eventually you let her go and everything. You during your investigation, she's on her phone and she's texting Ota, and Ota mentions something like, "Oh, I will never tell, even if they talk about that thing." And he's like, "What do you mean by that thing?" She doesn't really give it up or anything, but eventually once you let her go, you're going to take her to see Ota, and depending on the branch you take, you either go to the bar or you go to Ota's family restaurant. Either way, you're going to get knocked out. And that leads you to seeing later when you wake up, there is a live stream happening, and someone with a polar bear mask is trying to chop Iris in half, and she has her eye removed.
Yes.
So depending, again, which route you take, Iris will be murdered, chopped in half, and then Ota will be chopped in half, or you will be able to save both of them.
Yep.
But they will be in rough shape. Like, Iris will still have her eye missing. Ota will get stabbed. And so, yeah, either way, it's not great.
Yeah, not ideal.
One of these leads towards the Ota ending,
where he becomes a superhero.
Yeah, so that's the one where he doesn't die, obviously.
Yeah, that one was actually really entertaining, that dream sequence.
Because it's basically just him being like, "I'm the hero of all this. I will save the day." It's like, no, we have to push you in this direction to do this.
Yeah.
That whole sequence is like, it becomes like his mother becomes a suspect, and because she basically tries to turn herself in and be like, "I did it. I tried to kill her because I don't like that
witch,
that hussy, that idol
trying to take my son away,
son's money." And then you have to question her, but she's not able to basically give information that would make her the suspect. You know that she was at the scene because she had dropped something, and like the way chocolates, and the whole, there's a whole sequence of events that leads all parties to that scene. You know she's there, but you know that she was not the person who did the crimes.
Right.
Eventually you have to sync with her, and there you learn that like she has Alzheimer's. Or I think you learned that previous to this, but you'll learn that she has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And her memory is like just like different parts of her life, or like things have happened. Like, there's Ota dropping out of school and basically trying to like fake that he's still going, but she doesn't remember that he dropped out. There's a scene where like he's a kid and like she brought the wrong candy for him and he gets all mad about it.
So she's like the dumbest mom.
And then like there's a scene where they get her the apron and the knife for Mother's Day. It's like a memory she treasures a lot. So that basically confirms to you like, oh, she's not the person who did this and all that sort of stuff. And
also, this was a really, really hard one.
It's sad.
This sequence was
real sad.
Very, very hard. Like, not hard in the sense that like it was a difficult thing with just the game.
Emotionally difficult.
Emotionally, it was really hard to get through. Like, this is not the one that I cried a lot on, but I cried a little bit on this one. But it hurt me a lot. I was like, oof, because like Alzheimer's is something that is really, really scary to me.
Which again, I will commend Uchikoshi for the writing of this because like
It was
there's
done really
totally
well.
it was done completely well, and like there's a way you could probably do this to make it more comedic or made fun of it, but
Hmm.
like it's set very seriously. He takes this very serious tone with it, like of like teaching you the player and like Date of like why is this such like a terrible and terrifying disease?
Hmm.
What does it do to a person? Like what does it do to a person's memories and all that sort of stuff?
Like
And
she
like
can't even remember that her husband died.
right, or that her business or like the restaurant it doesn't even isn't in business anymore,
Right.
and it's been years. Like it's done in a way that's like very like just respectful of like the
What that's
seriousness
like.
of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
what that's like.
It was hard.
Mm-hmm. Like the that ending, I think it takes like something happens to her. She has to go to the hospital. I don't remember what, but it's like her and Ota in the hospital, and like
I
just
thought
them like
Ota was in the hospital and she was just visiting him.
maybe it's that.
They're both
Yeah, I
there.
guess it would be that because he was stabbed. But
He
yeah,
got a little stabbed.
it's like them like just reconnecting, and even though like she still has trouble remembering things, like
He's
they have a
more
good heart to heart.
understanding.
Yeah. Um. But also during that route, you go to the hospital to talk to him, and he has a knife on him.
Yeah, which he does clarify that he did that because he was scared that whoever was trying to kill him would try again.
Uh.
But even then, like, that's messed up.
How did you get a knife in the hospital?
Good question.
I don't remember what the other route, the branch of the Iris dream goes to. I just remember it's very bad where they're both dead essentially,
Well, one of them leads to the like the boss route.
where you get the locked door or
Yeah,
the lock in the flow chart. Yeah.
that's the top left. Um Somewhere in here is the Mizuki one, isn't it?
Yes. Um. Which I think might be the bad end route of them both being dead.
That's possible.
Um. So yeah, I don't remember exactly the Mizuki ending off the top of my head now. So
Um I remember
I remember
some
the end of it, but not
yeah.
like the how you get there.
Yeah, no, I remember the end because that was the part that like really, really made an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
But I am trying to remember how we got there and I'm blanking.
I want to say it's the both Iris and Ota die route because it would I think it would have to be, but then again I just don't remember.
I mean, I could look at my flowchart live on
You totally
the
could.
podcast. Hold on. Um, but yeah, it this one is the one that made me cry a lot.
Getting
Um,
sad.
a lot. It's sad, but it's also like sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not what you would expect. Going into no, I don't want to update right now. Jeez, I'm on a time crunch, buddy. Um, Mizuki's such a good character.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is also the one where we find out that like Date was the one who like realized that there was something different about her and trained her.
Yes, because they go to a shrine and he tries to act as her master and is like, "You will teach you the three things that you will need to know to fight someone." And she's like, "All right, okay." And then like hits him once and like makes him fly. He's like, "Oh, all right," because she
You're
was
better
getting
at this than I
bullied.
thought.
She was getting bullied and like didn't know what to do. So he was
Yeah.
like, "All right, I'll teach you how to fight back." And then like he trains her once and is just like, "All right, I don't need to do anything. She's fine. She will whoop their ass."
I don't know where this is going. Okay, so it just takes me straight to the flowchart. Okay, let us go to the left.
Live flowchart. with Al.
Okay, so this is the. I think this is the Ota route. Yeah, this is definitely the Ota route. Okay, so that is correct. That is what we were thinking. So this one, I don't know what that picture is. It's just Date and his eye. That's them going to the shrine. I wonder if the case file like tells me. Yeah, here we go. This one where Pewter had to force the shutdown because Date was like really close to seeing the identity of the person, and like it became a real big issue with him. Oda said that he did not see who it was, but that the leg was injured, and that apparently Date just like fell out the floor.
I hate when I fall out of the floor.
When he wakes up, he's at home. Mizuki's with him. Mizuki's like, I'm going with you because both of my parents are dead and I need to know what's happening. And then he discovers like, oh, hey, that blood stain, it's going to have more than one person's blood because of the leg injury. That's important. They decide they're going to go get the cigarette butt from the Kubakura office to check that DNA.
And then you also have to go to the warehouse to be like, hey, check this for 2 DNAs.
We have the cool scene at So's because, oh, by the way, it's So's blood.
Yes.
Where there's like the showdown that like originally it's another one of the scenes where like I was like, hey, there's a porno mag on that weird island over there, and he's like, woo, it goes over there.
The best part about that is like he gets there, it's like, where's the porno?
Yep. And then she like gives him specific instructions, and he basically murders a bunch of guys with electricity and water. And Mizuki is trying to take out lots of dudes and does pretty well, but then eventually is taken hostage by So. And you're trying to figure out like where is she in the house. He says that he has like a bullet to, or he has a gun to her head, like don't do anything weird.
Right.
And then eventually like you're able to knock down the walls, and like she comes running at you, and you have a choice of like what you do. If you protect her, then it gets hit in the left eye, which if you remember is Aiba. And So thinks that he's dead, but he is not dead. But now So is dead.
But So makes a casual remark that's interesting.
He does make a casual remark that's interesting. He says something effective like, killed by your own father? Is that how he words it?
Basically, yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Also, Date just like blows his head off, which is intense. Date is not waking up though after the bullet in the eye, and so now we get to do something that we've not done before, which is they're like, oh hey, by the way, you had a really really high sync rate with Date when you guys synced at the very beginning of the game. We need you to sync and see if you can find him. Like maybe he just doesn't have a way out of his brain right now. Like go find him. And then it became emotional.
Yeah.
Because it's like this entire section of Mizuki like going through the apartment and like remembering backstory with her and Date and learning more about their relationship. It's really really good. Like he makes her some stew at one point, and he's like, I'm not the greatest cook, but I really tried. And she eats it and likes it, but pretends that she doesn't. He tries to get her like a doll, and she says that it's ugly at the time, but then like she remarks during the scene like that she really does like it. She remembers the fact that Date saved her earlier out of the speaker. She remembers that he gave up the bed, which was something that I had a question about earlier. And you're like, oh, it'll be explained. Because it's like, there's only one bed. Does he sleep on the couch? And you're like, it'll be explained.
They'll get to it.
But yes, that is what happened. Is that she was originally on the couch, and he decided to give her the bed instead. So that was cute. Eventually you get to like this weird black space. Once you like go through the bathroom door after she decides to be angsty with the bathroom at that one point. He's like knocking on the door saying he's gonna piss his pants. So you're in this black space, and on one side you have her parents, on the other side you have Date, and you have to run to Date, and he keeps pushing her away and being like, no, I'm not what you need, please go away. You don't want to be with me, like go away. And eventually like she gets through to him. So I was legit like, I wasn't bawling, but I was significantly crying during this.
It's very emotional.
It is very, very emotional. So by her doing that, she brings Date back. He recovers. They get Aiba back. They basically say that So was the culprit behind everything. But he's dead, so like you can't really confirm anything. And then something else that happens here, a very casual drop, is that Mizuki says that she saw her school teacher talking to So at one point. And it's like, nothing's weird about that, right? Yeah, it's fine. And then he's like, I'm gonna go take you to stew. Let's go have some stew.
Also, her school teacher is Iris's mom.
Well, that's not mentioned in this route.
But you see them two together, don't you?
I don't think so. I think it's later that that's revealed.
Okay, well, either way.
Regardless, yeah, that's her teacher. Also, she taught Ota at one point.
Yes.
Also,
you want to hear something that's happened in the real life?
In the real life, sure.
That Mario Maker 2 update with friend play is now out.
Whoa.
Breaking news. Anyways.
So we can't really go to the top left route yet because that's locked.
So you have to go to the other side.
That was originally the one that I went through and then got the lock, so that was very confusing for me. So then we go to the balloon side, and Mizuki cannot speak, so we can't get any kind of answers out of her at all. But one thing that's really odd about the balloon route is that Date sees a corpse in this one that looks a lot like Iris. That's been stabbed, I think, 6 times in the back. And
something
so
like that.
He calls Iris and is like, do not leave, do not answer the door, like stay in your house. Also, he heard a ringtone going off in there, and so he's like, all right, we gotta go see if there's actually a phone around there, or if that was just something that she made up. We find a smartphone in the horse's mouth, or horse's belly, I guess.
So you try to call it and fail miserably.
Yeah, Date does his big energy here, and he's like, it's Date for the police, and like,
click.
I was like, you moron. So that kind of leads to a dead end, but you do find out that they're both burner phones. So he at one point decides like, I need to check on Iris because like I saw her die, and that's not okay. So
he like busts into her house and sees her totally fine, and Mizuki's there, and he's like, what is happening? Things are weird.
um, is this the part where Mizuki learns to speak again from her teacher, or is that a different part?
Yes.
Okay.
I think by the time you see her here, she is speaking again.
Yeah, so the teacher gets her to speak again in this route as opposed to Date.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious because when you actually like realize that she can speak again, you're like in Date's apartment. She's like lifting weights. It's amazing.
She's like, oh, okay, I guess you're okay.
We also find out in this route that Renju is alive.
Mm-hmm.
But he has been in a really bad car accident and was hospitalized, but he left the hospital.
He's still in very bad shape.
Yeah, he has really significant like organ damage. So everybody's like, ooh.
You also eventually try calling the burner phone again, and you have Aiba mimic Shoko's voice. And you get through, and eventually you learn that the person on the other end of that burner phone is So. So you're like, interesting.
Also in this route, we find out that Moma of the Yakuza,
the Kumakuras,
he really, really loves A-Set.
He does. So he will literally do anything for you if you just bring A-Set.
Yep. So Date does like an X-ray scan and finds out that he has like an A-Set figurine in his safe. And he's like, so A-Set, huh? And he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. But then there's a game that A-Set plays that she basically says a word and you have to like rhyme until you get to A-Set. And so Dante just starts saying words until the dude's like, that A-Set. And
just keeps doing it. And he's like, oh, dang it.
Yep. So he got found out.
Because that's how you get to work with the Kumakuras in this route compared to the other route.
So at one point he's investigating and he goes to the cold storage warehouse that is significant in the other routes because that's where Iris and Ota are with the live stream.
The polar bear.
The polar bear, yes. So Date goes in this route and he sees a body.
Well, he was tailing So.
Yes.
And So goes in there. And he's like, okay, I got to figure out what's in there.
Then he sees the body.
He sees a body. He's like,
It looks like Iris. And it's got stab wounds.
Yep.
So then we get to sync with So, which this one was really hard for me.
It's rough.
Because essentially what happens is you're going through So's somnium, and Iris keeps running away from this figure and then getting stabbed repeatedly, and it just cycles back through, and you have to like figure out the puzzle to save her. But like every time she gets stabbed, you like hear the sounds and stuff, and I'm like, oh god, like it was.
Yeah, it's rough.
It was really hard. So Date's like, all right, well, obviously you did this because it's in your dream.
And he's like, no.
It's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. And once Iris is saved in this, Date goes and like finds her and she's fine. So he thinks that by saving her in the somnium, he saved her in real life.
Correct.
Yeah. So is claiming like, I don't know who that girl is, so I don't know what you're talking about.
And even Iris, like when you ask her, she's like, he's a congressman, I guess.
Like
that's all I know.
I've seen him on TV. That's it.
Yeah.
And eventually, like the police are called to go find the body, and they can't find it.
So like, nothing's there, Date. We don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, it was on the table, but there's nothing there.
So Then we end up going to, oh, okay. This is where we find out that Secretary talked to 89.
Yes.
Um,
So 89 is a prisoner who calls the police department at one point and is like, I know who the new Cyclops killer is. I know who killed Shoko Nadami, and he will kill again.
Yeah.
And the police are just like, whatever. They send the file to Date. They're like, hey, we received this call, but we don't know if it's legit or not. So he listened to it and all that. Then, so yeah, that's basically the gist of number 89. He doesn't have a name. He's just number 89, and supposedly he is behind the original Cyclops killings.
Mm-hmm. So Date in this route decides, like, well, time to interrogate number 89.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a good idea. It's not.
No.
It's not a good idea. Because he ends up like basically handcuffing Date and taking Pewter and Date's gun and escaping with Rinju.
Jingle jingle.
That was a Loki, man. So this says that we have Moma helping again, that he's like, hey, I have information on Rinju, but also, like, can you bring Iris by? That'd be real cool.
So that's how you get your information, is you bring Iris, and he's like, oh my gosh.
He just wants to shake her hand on this one. It progressively gets worse, but he wants to shake her hand. So then they end up going to Marble to go see Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where they're attacked.
Yes.
And so they're attacked by like this big mercenary group. The power of porn and underwear end up saving them.
It's true.
Then Iris starts talking about how there's this group that she thinks is after her.
The secret organization.
Yeah. So then we go into what do they call Minecraft in this one? Shovel something.
Shovel Forge.
Shovel Forge.
It's Minecraft.
It's Minecraft. So we have to go into her Minecraft Somnium.
Because we're syncing with her. Which the best part about this is that literally, so you're going through this, and Aiba transforms into like a block version of herself, and there are video screens around because like you're in like the specific part of the town where like Marble and all that stuff is, and like the whole Somnium takes place as if this is a let's play of Iris playing Shovelcraft.
Yes.
Or Shovel Forge, excuse me.
Shovel Forge. Shovelcraft. So it's actually really clever. And so she's yelling this whole time, like, there is this organization out to get me. Please help me. Like, you see the let's play, but also like a black and white big version of her keeps popping up and saying, like, you have to believe me. Aiba's like, I don't know. Like, should we be doing what she's saying? And Date believes her. So you go through, and you have to go through with like the power of dance to save her, and eventually you do believe her. And Date, Aiba keeps telling him, like, you are really too far gone with this. Like, you're really in deep on believing this, huh?
And he's like, no, I gotta believe this.
Yeah. And so he at one point, like, once you're out of the Somnium, agrees, like, I'm going to be your bodyguard. Like, that's all there is to it. So he's gonna protect her from this secret society, because she has figured out their secret about the satellite,
the Wadjet system.
Yes.
Which is the AI system that
Aiba is
based off of.
Yes.
The collective artificial intelligence system that made her, essentially.
They go back to the Kamakura office. This is where Moma decides that he's going to, like, ask if he can see her panties. I think it's this one.
Something like that.
And Date's like, hey, he asked that. And Iris is like, oh, Date, why would you joke about that? He just wants to shake my hand again. He's like, yeah, Date, why would you say that? God. Ugh, I just want to shake your hand. Um, but he does give you more information, like, hey, Renju was seen at the park on the day that Shoko was killed. Um, so they're trying to get some more leads. Also, like, they find out, oh hey, Pewter's not a good dude at all.
The whole thing about him getting taken hostage, yeah, maybe not real.
Yeah, no, he helped with that. Turns out that he is Rinju's new boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And that he gave Rinju his like new favorite watch.
Mm-hmm.
And also he was called by Rinju and said like, hey, let's help 89 escape. And so he went along with it and became the hostage willingly so that he could let 89 go. Yikes, that's not good. So then he kidnaps Iris and takes her to the cold storage warehouse where many things happen. You get this amazing scene with like Moma, Mizuki, Oda, and Date all trying to, well, and Aiba trying to save Iris with like a military vehicle and a hunting rifle and Date's gun and Mizuki's pipe, and Oda's just driving.
And the soldiers get distracted by porno.
Yeah, so the funny thing is that the first time I was like, so you picked something up when we were at that other place, right? And he said, no, I didn't pick up anything. What are you talking about? And she's like, no, I know you picked up one of those magazines. And he's like, but it's like,
it's a limited edition. It's a collector's item.
Yep.
She's like, no, use it.
Throw it. So then, like, they throw it. They knocked out the first line. The next one, she's like, so you picked something else up, didn't you? And he's like, ugh. So he also picked up the underwear and was going to give it to Reika, the hostess that he has a thing for at the cabaret club.
Yep.
Which I was like, you were going to give her used underwear as a gift. And he says something effective like, the French say that like wine and underwear are the things that get better with age. And the flavor text is basically like, this is not true. But it was hilarious. So he throws the underwear and knocks out the other group, and eventually they end up getting to Iris with their ragtag group of people. Trying to think what else. This says that Iris said that Renju tried to take her to the abandoned factory in the Kawasaki district, which is the like band district.
And that's where you'll find out there is another sync machine there.
Yes.
The original sync machine.
So now we are back in Iris's because she passes out at the sync machine, like bad things are happening, really bad things are happening to her. I think she starts actually bleeding from her left eye. But anyway, you end up having to sync with her and you get another Shovel Forge scene.
And like you're trying to find, because there's this whole story about like the shrine they go to a lot is like there is like the
fruit of
the fruit of life is in there. Yeah. And basically this whole Somnium is like you trying to open up this shrine to get that to help her live.
But also fighting off like the UFOs and stuff that she was talking about. So it's a big thing. You end up giving her the fruit after like growing the tree and the Somnium and everything. And so Date and his original belief of like things I do in the Somnium can change reality. He's like, this is going to cure her. She's going to be okay if I do this. I can save her. It doesn't.
Whoops.
So she's dying or dead. I'm not sure exactly if she actually dies in this, but it's not good.
No.
So she dies in Date's arms in that abandoned factory.
Mm-hmm. Which leads you back to the other route of hers, where you have to basically not believe her.
Yeah. So you don't believe her in this one,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets very upset um, because she thinks that like she's still having like people follow her and all. So they end up going to the diner to ask Oda like, "Hey, what's this about?"
And I think Mizuki's there as well, where you learn that like she has a better trident than him.
Wait, is that? I thought we went to his diner. Do we go to Sunfish Pocket?
Or you're talking about his diner.
Yeah, but that is funny that she has a better. But I
Yes.
mean, her dad also owned it, so
True.
like,
But you were right. I think you do go to his diner, and then
um,
because you have like an argument.
and she's like, "Why don't you believe me?" And then she leaves
Mm-hmm.
a note saying like, "I'm gonna go with the person I trust the most."
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's not good. But this is also where we find out that Iris has a brain tumor.
And she's dying.
She's dying, and she has delusions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's bad. Um, but also explains a lot because you get a flex in there that like if someone with delusions like you go into their somnium and you sync with them, like you actually will fall for those delusions too.
Mm-hmm.
Which explains why Date was so invested with that idea.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of creepy. Like I told you, I was like, I don't like Date like this. This is weird. So finding out that there was a reason made me feel better about it.
There's a reason.
Um, then they find the frozen corpse again when they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for Iris. Um, they're like, "Hey, that's not cool." Because Iva says that she found somebody, but it's not anybody living. But then they realize like, oh, she's frozen solid, so that's weird.
And she's been frozen solid for like years.
Yeah.
Also, you find
Um,
her in like a forklift,
yeah.
like the engine compartment of a forklift.
Um, so you eventually find out that it was a friend of Hitomi and Renju who
Mm-hmm.
disappeared 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Monica.
Mm-hmm.
Manaka, even though it sounds like Monica, like Monica.
Manaka.
Manaka. Um, so Hitomi won't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to sync with Hitomi.
Mm-hmm.
Here we like have this weird, creepy forest, and you have to figure out the secret of what's going on in the forest.
And you see like a young version of Hitomi, a young version of Renju, and a young version of Monica.
Yes. And we end up seeing like the body in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Hey, that's bad. They discovered a corpse."
Mm-hmm.
So Iris is not Hitomi's real daughter.
No, she is adopted.
She's adopted.
Because she was the daughter of Monica, who was having an affair with So.
Mm-hmm. Monica went to talk with So about the whole situation at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Left Iris with Renju and Hitomi. And while she was going to talk to So, So's son Saito ended up stabbing her repeatedly and killing her.
Mm-hmm.
So, So paid the Kamakura people to get rid of the corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And Hitomi and Renju find it. They preserve it in the cold storage.
Well, also, the then leader of the Kumakuras, Rohan,
took her eye out.
Before they bury the body, takes her right eye.
Yes. He really likes taking right eyes because
Mm-hmm.
he can't see on one side of his head.
Mm-hmm.
And
they were able to find her because they had like a GPS tracker on her because they wanted to have her have this just in case something went bad because So didn't know about the kid.
He had actually paid for her to take care of it.
Mm-hmm. And they were worried that like he's going to do something to her because this would be very bad press for him. And if this got out, like his whole political career could be over.
Yeah. So they find her, they clean her up. They put her in the cold storage warehouse, which Renju had control over.
Because it was his family's factory, and it was kind of bequeathed to him. And basically, he kept it on the books and everything, but like didn't do anything with it. But had people kind of like shy away from it.
So yeah, 18 years have gone by. That body's been there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well preserved that actually would have been, but that's fine. Um, and so Hitomi realizing that like she needs money to get the nano machines in Iris's head.
Nano machines. It's like a
um
Metal Gear game.
decides that she's just gonna blackmail this congressman.
Mm-hmm. So
So
she basically like she sends him a message. It's like, I know what happened 18 years ago. I know the truth. Come to the cold storage warehouse if you want to know more. And so this is where you saw So go to the cold storage warehouse, and Hitomi basically takes the body of Monica, lays it out on the table for him to see, and he like freaks out and immediately leaves. And then that's when you come in. You like Hitomi wasn't expecting you to come in and everything, so you see that body, and basically after you leave, she basically has to hurry up and hide it. So that's why no one was able to find the body originally when you were like, hey, there's a body in the cold storage warehouse.
One thing worth mentioning, because I was just going back through this, with the Hitomi sync, they mentioned like, oh, by the way, this is what happens if you go over 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You switch everything. Like your consciousness goes into that person's body.
Which, like, before they had tried to hint at it as like, oh, well, your memories will get erased or your memories get overwritten by the other person's memories
Like
that you're trying
you
to
basically
invoke.
like get lost.
Yeah. But the real caveat is you just switch bodies.
Switch bodies.
Yeah.
Totally not going to become relevant at all.
Nah.
So eventually, and I don't remember why, Date and Hitomi go to the Kawasaki factory. And I know that he pulls the thing off and finds Renju, and Renju is dead as.
I think they get a message from someone.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's like, hey, you come.
But yeah, Renju is super, super dead. Turns out that like, having major organ damage and being on the run, they don't go well together. So
nope.
He's dead. Also Date gets like knocked on the noggin, so he's once again knocked out. He gets knocked out a lot in this game.
But also this is where you get locked.
Yes.
And then you got to go to the other lock you were on the other side. So the lock here is you are in Iris and Hitomi's house, and the boss bursts in. I think that's the lock.
Yes. After she shoots So and then shows up on the camera.
Right. So the lock is you see footage of the boss taking a gun and point blank executing So.
His eye is also
what is happening? You go to try and find Iris and Hitomi. They are not at their house, so you're like looking through and seeing what's there, and then boss shows up and like breaks in and is like, Date, you're under arrest for the murder of So and all these other people, and you're like, what? And that's where the lock happens. Then you get the unlock here, and you have to basically kind of maneuver your way out of this situation. Which you're able to do by creating like a powder bomb.
Yeah. Again, a situation where I was like, hey, there's a porno mag next to you. And I was like, is this porno and milk? And you're like, yeah, you're a weird Santa. Actually,
like, that's a collector's edition, so limited. Oh my god.
And so they throw the flour out. It's not milk, it's flour. And ends up like shooting it, and it becomes like a bomb. I know that the boss ends up getting like a leg injury and a shoulder injury.
But it's enough to knock her out and everyone else that's with her. So that happens. Also, the porno was just a cooking magazine.
Tragic.
Tragic. So
Um,
you basically take the boss and you go investigate her, trying to
yeah,
figure out
because
what is going on.
he thinks that since she shot So and also the eye was out, that like
She is the
boss
killer.
boss is the killer.
So you go and investigate her.
Yeah.
And I say her with quotation marks.
So this was my least favorite of the sinks because this one was really hard.
Yeah, it's a very tough sync, but also like it's very plot relevant.
Yeah. So this is the warehouse, and you basically are getting like flashbacks every time you open a door of everybody who's died in this route so far. So that would
Mhm.
be Shoko,
Shoko,
Renju,
Renju,
Iris,
Iris,
Ota,
and So.
and so okay. So basically everybody did.
Yes. It's a very time constricting one because you basically need to have items to get through these specific doors that show you a person dying. So it's probably the toughest puzzle out of the entire game, but obviously it's a very late game puzzle, so that makes sense.
You
But
have
yeah,
to basically save a bunch of like 1 second things because the doors take
yes.
999
Hey.
seconds to open.
But yeah, like it's very much the one that you have to like. I need to memorize exactly what I need to do in what order,
Yep.
and also pick up these items specifically at specific spots, and do all that. But yeah, you eventually learn that the person who killed all those people is the same person.
But they've been switching bodies.
They've been switching bodies.
So you had some pretty terrible things like Renju killed Shoko.
Mm-hmm.
Iris killed
Kills
Renju.
So
killed
kills
Iris and Oda. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
And then boss kills So.
Yes.
And then you interrogate this person who is the boss, and you learn that it is actually So's son Saito, who has transferred from body to body to body to body to body to where he is now. And it's basically just getting rid of the other bodies he transfers from to get rid of the evidence.
Also, he's been feeding them the eye. Because there's always been this question of like, where are the missing eyeballs?
You also learn that he is one half of the original Cyclops killers.
The other
it was him and Rohan.
The other Kamakura.
Yeah, the former leader of the Kumakuras.
You also learn that you were in Saito's body.
You have Saito's original body.
He basically says like, Hitomi has a bomb strapped to her. I want my body back. I'll tell you where she is if we switch via sync. So he does tell where she is, but also he just blows her up anyway and explains like, well, I did tell you. I kept my promise, and it's fucked up. So that was real messed up. And then we can go back to the other side where people are alive.
So this is where you're going to get a lot of information. So to preface this, we need to talk about 89.
Yep.
Because he is going to become a very important person in this. So backstory on Prisoner 89. He was formerly known as Hayato Yagyu, who was a police officer.
Known as Falco.
Also known as Falco after things go bad. He worked with Boss in the police department. Yep. He was a police officer.
They were in the academy together.
Yes. And basically he started like becoming this like vigilante who would enact justice of his own and kill criminals who would be like really like didn't get the right punishment that they deserved. So he becomes this underworld assassin by the name of Falco. He starts doing business with the Kumakuras. That's how he becomes associated with Rohan, and basically does jobs for them here and there. Eventually, he kind of gets sick of it and wants to try and find a way out. And he goes to Rohan and is like, hey, I want to get out of this. Can we split and do an amicable split? And Rohan's like, okay, sure. But you have to kill these two people. And those two people are Hitomi and Iris.
Did you mention the fact that, like...
yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
So, while all this is happening, a job went bad for Falco, and he gets, like, messed up. And he's, like, wounded, and he's at the shrine. Hitomi finds him, and she's like, oh, this is a wounded person. I should probably try and help him. When she's trying to do that, he, like, grabs her and kisses her as like the people looking for him are trying to like coming to find him to try and like get them off of him and everything. And somehow that just woos Hitomi. So like they start like seeing each other, and that's how Iris becomes to know him as like uncle, because she basically mentions like there was this person in my life who basically told me to become an idol, who gave me the name Aset, and the reason I became an idol is because I want to try and find that person again.
Also, he told me a ton about mythology.
Yes.
She also draws this like cute drawing that has come up a few times of them like having a food fight and how they wanted to do it again. Also, the whole thing with like Iris and the mythology, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I also like mythology. But then she also at one point said the word wee wee, and it upset me a lot in reference to like a man losing his genitals. And I'm like, you are 18 years old and you're calling it a wee wee?
She's an idol. She can't say foul language.
She's not an idol at that point. She's just her. She's not on stream. She can say like anything other than wee wee. I mean, even if you just say like his unit, his junk, his balls, like say something that's not wee wee that makes you sound like you're 2 years old. God.
So yeah. Falco and Hitomi kind of become a thing with Iris, and they're getting kind of serious. But then Falco gets this job of where he has to try and kill them, and he's like, I'm not going to do that, no matter what. Along the way, though, Falco gets information from, I think, Boss about trying to bring in Rohan, and she introduces him to like the sync machine, and is like, all right, we're going to have you 2 switch bodies.
That's the solution for this problem.
That happens, but then Rohan and Falco's body gets away and goes off and tries to eliminate Hitomi.
Yep.
Falco and Rohan's body figures this out and tries to stop that from happening, but Hitomi doesn't realize what's happened and thinks the right person's in the right body. So Falco tries to shoot Rohan, and when he does that, Hitomi jumps in the front of the bullet and gets shot. And she gets shot in the shoulder, and that's why she's unable to use her arm.
Right arm.
So that happens, and then the cops show up at the same time. And then basically, I think they switch back, or they...
Rohan
goes into Saito's body.
Wait. Hold on.
So Saito goes into Falco's body.
Saito goes into Falco.
Rohan goes into Saito, and then Falco goes into Saito.
Okay. There's like some
very confusing, but like it's
body shenanigans here.
So Saito is in Rohan's body.
Also,
original body.
At one point, like when Falco is in Rohan's body, he's like, these two are never to be touched. Don't do anything to them. So he does call that off. But then we get the shenanigans here with body switching.
Yes. So a lot of body switching shenanigans. So that all happens, and also by the time you will see this, it becomes familiar that this scene in particular is the dream sequence that is the tutorial syncing mission. And was the whole thing of why Date did not remember any of this, because he didn't recognize his own body and all that stuff. He didn't remember anything that happened 6 years ago.
Right.
So
Date is Falco.
That all being said, we come back to Date being incapacitated, and he finds Renju dead, and also Falco is there.
He also is like,
Falco.
Hitomi and Iris are alive. I'm going to murder them in front of you, and it's going to be amazing.
So it's Saito in Falco's body, and he's basically, again, wanting his own body back.
Yeah.
So he lured Renju there to swap bodies again, and basically is now trying to do the same thing to Date.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
A little bit, yeah.
It's very complicated, but like in story, it makes a ton of sense. Like you're easily able to follow it. It's a little bit harder to describe when there's like no visuals or anything like that.
Yeah. So then eventually you are coerced into doing another sync.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
This is the original sync machine where like the sync machine literally plugs into your eye and you have to remove your eye to even use it.
which like Saito and Falco's body just like casually removing eyeballs is really freaky to me. He's just like whatever, pulling this out, placing it here. It's like, oh man, this fake eye, this is dumb. Like, why do you
Mm-hmm.
have this? Um, but yeah, just like casually pulling his eyeball out and then plucking like the like nerves and off is
Mm-hmm.
I was worried that I was doing this one wrong because like the time was weird. Like time wasn't really passing, but then things weren't happening and then I was sinking in blood. And I'm just like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
So
Apparently I was thinking right.
during this whole sync, you basically learn all about like all the stuff that happened. You get your memories back and everything because you're getting back into your original body. Also, so when Falco is in Rohan's body, he goes to see Saito to try and get a confession for the Cyclops killings. That's how they bring Saito into all this. He's like, "Hey, remember when we did all those killings? We should do another one." And Saito basically like figures out that like this is not the real Rohan.
Mm-hmm.
And also is able to steal the prototype sync machine, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how he swaps bodies with Falco.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he's able to get away, Saito is, and then Falco is now in Saito's body and basically does not know what's happened. He has no memories, and he's like wandering the streets, and Boss finds him and is like, "All right, I'm gonna bring you in. You're getting this new identity, and you're gonna work for me."
Also, I don't remember exactly what happens, but there's some kind of um, there's some more body switching shenanigans, and the fact that like at one point, Shoko Mizuki's mom is put into Rohan's body.
Yes, because there is a story about when you first meet the Kumakuras. He's like, Date's like, "No, Rohan's the leader of the Kumakuras," and Momo's like, "No, I am." And I was like, Date, Rohan committed suicide a year ago after jumping off a roof. And Date's like, "Yikes!" You learn that Saito in Rohan's body finds Shoko and basically body switches. So he puts Shoko into Rohan's body
Mm-hmm.
while she's unaware of what's happening, and she wakes up, finds this, and jumps off a roof.
Yeah, she can't handle that.
Mm-mm. So that's how he
So
dies.
the Shoko who was like killed earlier is not actually Shoko. It's her body. But
Yeah.
it was a whole lot of like mind because
Mm-hmm.
it was supposed to be like this weird thing of like Renju is killing her and then Iris is
Mhm.
killing him. It's just a lot of like messed up junk because this dude's real messed up.
Yes.
Like
This is very true.
he only gets pleasure out of killing, is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only time that he ever gets any kind of like chemical pleasure from his brain.
Yeah, because like his brain doesn't produce emotions in the same way that other people's do.
So he just likes to murder. And I think they said that Monica was his first one that was a human, that before he was just killing animals.
Right.
So that was when he got like obsessed with it.
So the body switch happens between Saito and Date, so they're back in their original bodies. Saito's gonna make Date watch Hitomi and Iris get killed, but Saito gets ambushed by Moma because Aiba called for him to come help. They're able to fight through the rest of this plant and everything. Saito holds Iris at gunpoint, and he gets jumped again by Hitomi and Ota. They're able to get away. They chase Saito up to like the top floor where he captures Hitomi, puts her at gunpoint, and Date has to figure out, okay, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna try and shoot him from over here, all the way over here on the other side of this like catwalk, or what am I gonna do? Date remembers back to there was a conversation like before some of this happens. Like it's a late game conversation between him and Aiba, and Aiba brings up the idea of like, what if something happens to me? We need a contingency plan, and they come up with this idea of like, okay, if something happens to either of us, or if someone tries to steal you, we will have a 2-factor authorization kind of thing. The first thing is
A
Date
number.
has to say a lie.
No, it's a number
Oh, is it a
first.
number first? Number first. So it's a
He gives the
number.
number first, and then he has to say a lie.
So she comes up with a number, and then Date's like, well, we can't just do that. We need a second one. And then Date's like, well, if I say a blatant lie, you will know to execute our contingency plan.
And at one point, like, there's a thing with Saito that he was like, oh man, originally I was just going to like blow your head off, but now that you've done this, I'm going to blow everybody's heads off. Which interestingly enough, once this self-destruct thing, she gives they do the number, and then his lie is that he hates her.
Mm-hmm. Which the number is, give me a second. I got to remember what the number a certain letter is associated to. So it is 41205, which if you take those numbers and put letters to them, like in the alphabetical order, it spells Date.
Yep.
And then so he says the number, and the lie he says is that he doesn't want to see Aiba anymore. He's not going to miss her.
That he hates her. And so she's like, confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Because she is still in Saito's head.
Yeah, for some reason he decided to pick it up, even though he said he hated it.
And she executes the program and literally blows his head off.
Blows his head completely off.
Mm-hmm.
Which I will say, one thing that's really interesting is how different they make the facial expressions of like Date and then Saito in the original body.
Right.
Like that was really well done. Mm-hmm. He looked crazy pants.
Crazy pants.
He was crazy pants. But yeah, he gets his head completely blown off.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. So that's intense.
You're able to save the day.
Yay! 3 months later.
So you time warp to 3 months later as your epilogue. Iris is recovering from nanomachine surgery. They were able to get her brain tumors out. The police department paid for it in return for basically everyone kind of keeping on the down low about the Cyclops killing secrets.
Yep.
So and then you basically kind of go around to all the characters and have a chit chat with them. You go talk to the boss. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say that at one point you go talk to Moma and
he's like, I got all the boys into A-set.
He does do that, and then they all do the A-set game, and then he asks like, hey, I really want to motorboat her. Can we make this happen? And Date, who is now in his original body, but still is going by Date because he's like, that's my identity now.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, sure, we can make that happen. And they end up like propping up like the passed out bigger dude on the desk and like have Moma motorboat him. And he's like, this is the greatest day of my life. It's like, oh, buddy.
So you also don't have an eye still. You have a fake eye.
Yeah.
Glass eye
just
put
a
in.
fake eye.
Yeah. You go to talk to boss and you get unexpectedly knocked out by her. She just knocks you out. And you wake up in the sync room with Pewter, who's supposed to be in jail. And and Dante's like, what the f***?
Why are you here?
And Peter's like, well, I had a favor to do, and I was the only person who could do this.
Also,
sorry about things. Yeah. You go see So, and So is not as angry at you because you don't look like Saito anymore.
Yep.
He's no longer a politician, and basically is just like, we don't ever have to see each other again.
Yeah.
He also talks about how like he was the one behind like that whole Kawasaki district becoming abandoned and everything because he just wanted to make money off of it.
But it was partially Saito's idea too.
Yeah. Mizuki is now the owner of Lemniscate because she inherits Renju. Yes, I don't know. Whatever. Because basically she just inherits Renju's ownership. Then they're still arguing, but it's good. Ota is basically trying to work multiple jobs and.
Well, they're arguing because of eggs.
Oh, right, eggs.
Which ended up with me having a conversation with you about eggs because she makes the eggs over easy,
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, that's disgusting. I like my eggs over well. And I was like, I mean, he's right. That's the only way to eat eggs. So I can understand why he would be upset. But he's having to use like Iris as a go between so that they can actually talk to each other because they're upset at each other about eggs.
Mm-hmm. Ota's working multiple jobs and trying to like make himself a better person
Make ends meet
to
with
like
his mom.
yeah and support his mom. His mom's also taking medication to help with her Alzheimer's, and she's also like okay with Iris now.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
hoping that she will become her daughter-in-law. And Iris is like,
mhm.
ah.
Also, everyone just thinks Date got plastic surgery.
Yes.
That's why he looks different because no one could know about syncing.
So what they said is that apparently like his face was damaged in the explosion that like destroyed Saito is what their
The
argument is.
official reason.
So they had to give him plastic surgery. So that is his reason for why he looks like he does. Everybody's
Uh,
like, wow. And some people are like, oh, I like this look better.
mhm. And then finally, Iris takes you to the warehouse district,
Mm-hmm.
and she gives you a surprise of, by the way, Aiba's back, because the whole thing with her doing the self destruct thing is that Pewter had basically started like erasing all of her files and all the stuff in the cloud and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like the only thing that was left of her was the local version of her. So when she self destructed, she was dead.
Yeah.
But now she's back, back from the dead.
Apparently because of the system,
The Wajit system.
the Wajit system, there were some backups every once in a while, like of individual files. So she was able to pull on that. Well, Pewter was able to pull on that.
Mm-hmm. So like when you're unconscious at Abyss, he basically puts all that into motion and puts the new Aiba into you. And then the game ends on a dance.
Yep.
So good.
The dance was hilarious. I really still hate the vocals of this song, but the only vocals of this song that I dislike are Iris's vocals because everybody else gets a shot at singing in this, and it's amazing. Like Mizuki has one of my favorite parts because hers is basically just like about beating the out of people.
It's true. It's real good.
And Ota is basically like, "Hey, I love you, mom."
Mm-hmm.
With like a weird pelvic thrust at one point. But everybody's there, like even the inspector, which we haven't even mentioned the inspector, but like the whole gag between the inspector is that like nobody ever remembers his name. Like
there's a moment in the beginning of the game where like you could just like continuously ask for his name,
yeah,
and the guy just keeps getting like, "This is my name. This is my name." Just keep getting more and more bummed.
Because like if you read his character profile, it mentions like one of the things that makes him super upset is when people don't remember his name, which is great. But like eventually you talk to him and you like say his name. He's like, "You remembered!" And he gets so stoked. But he's one of the dancers, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the like a receptionist, and you have one of the mermaids. I'm trying to think of what else is there. The taxi driver's there.
Yeah, basically anyone who is alive is there.
Yeah. Also, like Hitomi can use her arm again somehow in the dance. All right.
Nano machines.
Nano machines. The song would be fine if it didn't have Iris singing in it.
God.
Every time I hear it, I would just get mad. But then eventually we have Date in his original body dancing with them, which is great.
That's how the game ends.
But wait, something we have not talked about is the fact that I think this is the first time we have ever, that I can think of, heard DC Douglas be a protagonist.
That's what I was about to get to. So like, original Date is voiced by Greg Chun, who also does the main voice of Take in Judgment. So it was very weird to come from that game to this game and have like both crime dramas voiced by the same dude. And then DC Douglas is introduced totally as 89. It's like, oh yeah, this is totally gonna be a villain dude.
Yeah, I was
it's
like,
DC Douglas, obviously.
I was like, oh, that's Kira.
Yeah. And then the switch is like DC Douglas is the protagonist and the hero.
Yep.
It's so wild.
It is like, man, I did not expect that. Also, he gets to sing at the end.
He does. It's real good.
um, I was not expecting that at all.
No, neither
Um,
was I. I was like, because like when that happened, eventually I was like, oh wow, this is happening.
so that's the first time I can think of it. But Choo Choo.
Are you telling me that Jazz in Eternal Sonata was not a hero?
Okay, well, Jazz is a complicated character.
That
And
eventually I will learn about.
I would say you will find out if you actually play it. But Jazz is a complicated character. He's not a villain. I will put it that way.
So there you go. There's two.
Okay. But he's not the protagonist.
Okay. But yeah, so that was a fun little interesting wrinkle in this game that
Was.
not what I was expecting.
Also, we are not 30, we are 42.
Yep. We're even
Also,
older.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna like date Hitomi again.
Yeah.
Seems likely.
Yeah.
He has a lot of amending to do with that relationship, but like
He's gonna have 2 kids.
2 kiddos. Which
'Cause-
doesn't he officially adopt her?
Mizuki?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, that is stated in the game that he adopts her, which is yes. I mean, it makes sense since like,
hmm
yeah, yeah.
But there you go.
It was really good.
It's a really good game. Like, obviously, you know, we came into it, you know, with being fans of Uchikoshi and his style of writing and all that sort of stuff. So like, you know, we expected good things from it, but like I think I was
not
still
expecting this good.
pleasantly surprised of how good it actually is.
Yeah, I was not expecting it to be this good. I stayed up very late to finish it.
You did.
I also have the special agent edition of it. That came with an art book and a soundtrack and some stickers and an A set. It's pretty cool.
I will say though that this game is on Switch, PC, and PS4. If you have the choice between them, probably don't get the Switch version because the performance on it is rough. And there are instances where it crashes. There are instances where it takes too long to load things. Like there are very much instances where like you'll be you'll like, I need to think of the warehouse district, and it'll be like, well, let me take 3 to 4 seconds to load this picture of the warehouse district, and you're just like, this takes too long.
Yeah, it does do that. I only had it crash once, which was not great, but not.
I had it crash going into the dance sequence after I'd beat the game.
Oh my god!
And then I had it crash when it failed to load another, like, it was like Date thinking of another place, and it failed to load that and just crashed.
That was when it happened to me. Is that he was thinking of another place and it crashed.
So yeah, like if you have the option to get like the PS4 or the PC version, probably get that if you are worried about performance, because like I said, on the Switch it is rough, and I don't think they've patched it since then. So, but these are things like they could patch eventually, but as of this recording, it's still rough.
Yeah, I mean it's not great, but it's definitely playable. So it's not like it's going to be like 0 out of 10 unplayable game.
But like, if you're someone who values performance, like that is something to consider.
Yeah, don't get that version.
There are other versions out there, but yeah, it is definitely, I think, a game that people should play, regardless if you've played Zero Escape or Punchline or anything else that Uchikoshi has done. Like, this is a good game on its own merits by itself, and if you've played those other games, like you can definitely see like just the maturity and just the way Uchikoshi has gotten better over time as a writer.
Yeah, he's definitely improved. I'm so proud.
And also, it's a game that got people mad, so there you go.
Man, I love when games make people mad. I don't remember why they got mad at this one, but
because Mizuki says she likes LGBT people.
Oh, right. That was actually really great. She straight up is just like, yeah, LGBT people are cool. Like, because he asked, like, are you afraid of Mama or something like that?
Because Mama is like, she's the barkeeper, but she identifies as non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then
yeah,
obviously like
it's
Mizuki
cool.
gets asked about it, and then people are like, well, the translators were clearly saying this. And then someone's like, here's the Japanese version where she's saying basically the same thing. Also, there is a note about what LGBT people are in the game log, and it's literally like, this is the definition of it, and it's like, these people are rad.
Yeah. Like, obviously, Uchikoshi has no issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I will say, as a note on this that I'm pleasantly surprised about, and I know that this is a terrible thing to be pleasantly surprised about, and I understand that as I'm going in, but there were several times that like Iris was clearly hitting on Date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, no, you are too young for me. And I was like, good. I am glad that you understand that. Like
I wonder like how much of that was actually like the subconscious of his actual like memories and bodies being like, nope, don't go this way. But also just like the fact that he's written to be like, no, I'm good.
I mean,
he's way more interested in that
the
receptionist.
busty lady.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he can be a sleazeball.
Totally.
Like, don't get me wrong, he can definitely be sleazy.
But like, he's not gonna go hit on a girl that's 10 years his younger. I want to say 10 years his elder, but like that's not right.
That's not right. It's not something you see a lot in games that like if there is a younger girl hitting on an older guy, he's usually like, oh, this is exciting, this younger girl's hitting on me. And he's like, no, you're too young. No, it's not happening. Mm-hmm. And essentially every time that she's like, okay, we're either gonna go on a date or we're gonna play Shovel Forge, he's like, we're not doing Shovel Forge, but if we were going on a date, it's gonna be like, okay, we're doing some investigating.
We're just investigating, that's it.
So he makes it very clear, like, there is nothing romantic about this. I am too old for you. Mm-hmm. Don't get it in your head. Like, again, I shouldn't have to be pleasantly surprised about that, but I was. It's like, all right, not as bad as you could have been, Date.
Totally.
Yeah, sleazeball, but a sleazeball with some morals.
A sleazeball with heart.
He is a sleazeball with heart, honestly. Like, that's the best way to describe him. That's a really good way to describe him.
So yeah, that is AI, or I keep wanting to say AI. It's the Somnium Files.
It's yeah.
Just keeps throwing me off.
You remember, we have to talk about eyeballs and love.
Mm-hmm. And I. Artificial intelligence.
There's so much going on.
It's a great game if you are interested in that sort of thing.
It's really great.
Definitely one to pick up this year.
And honestly, like, if you guys have listened to any of our podcasts and have heard me talk about Zero Escape and how much I love 999, like, the fact that I am saying that this is a better game than 999 should tell you something. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
That's gonna wrap this episode up.
Oh, hello.
Almost. Oh, hello.
Sorry, I just got a Loki head in my armpit.
He's like, hello.
I don't know why he decided to shove his entire head into my armpit.
We are nearing 2.5 hours of this podcast.
Oh my god.
Right?
I guess it is a long game. Story-wise, it's a long game. Like,
yeah. Describing everything, I think, is...
There's a lot of plot.
Yeah. So, yeah. If you would like more from us, go to seasonlanguagecheckup.com or SAC.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Season Language Checkup and Jared and Al Watch. You can find columns and reviews on the site as well, plus a new column on the site where I discuss how Love Live Sunshine School Idol movie Over the Rainbow has a pretty bad time of making a villain.
Yeah.
In its first half, and it just completely fails at it.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
It's disappointing. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews.
Yep.
You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Give us a buck and you get to hear all sorts of things.
Shenanigans
in the podcast.
Yay.
And other podcasts.
Yay.
Next week, we will talk about something. We're in the spooky month after all.
We are in a spooky month. Maybe potentially we can finish the one we're working on. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe.
I
We
know
have a little bit left of that game.
we're still gonna. Well, I don't want to spoil what we're gonna do with it, but
We'll get through it hopefully
point a
and talk
lot.
about it. And yeah, we'll do that and then some other stuff over the course of the next month. So we'll look forward to all that. And
Yay!
in the meantime, look out for eyes.
And AIs.